In the early 1990s, one voice captured the anger, confusion, and fragile hope of an entire generation. That voice belonged to Kurt Donald Cobain, the reluctant icon, who fronted Nirvana, a band that redefined rock music and reshaped global culture. Cobain's story is both triumphant and tragic. The meteoric rise of a small-town musician, the creation of a cultural phenomenon, and a shocking end that left millions questioning what went wrong. Was his death the inevitable outcome of fame, addiction, and personal struggle, or a mystery that remains unresolved? Origins and the birth of Nirvana, 1967 to 1989. Kurt Cobain was born on February 20, 1967, in Aberdeen, Washington, a logging town with limited opportunities, but a vibrant underground music scene. His childhood was marked by instability. After his parents' divorce in 1976, Kurt struggled with feelings of alienation that would later shape his lyrics. Drawn to art and music, Cobain discovered punk rock through bands like the Melvins and Black Flag. By his teenage years, he was deeply immersed in the local scene. In 1987, Cobain formed a band with bassist Chris Novoselic. After several drummers came and went, stability finally arrived. When Dave Grohl joined in 1990, the group soon chose the name Nirvana, symbolizing peace and freedom from pain, an ironic contrast to the turbulent path ahead. Their early work was shaped by independent label Sub Pop, which released Nirvana's debut album, Bleach, in 1989. Recorded for just $600, Bleach captured raw aggression and hinted at a new sound, a fusion of punk urgency with heavy metal intensity. Though it received limited mainstream attention, the record earned Nirvana recognition within the alternative music community and laid the groundwork for their breakthrough. The explosion of grunge and global fame, 1990 to 1992. The turning point came when Nirvana signed with DGC Records, a major label under Geffen. On September 24, 1991, they released Nevermind, featuring the single Smells Like Teen Spirit. Within months, the song became an anthem of Generation X, catapulting Nirvana to global stardom. Nevermind unexpectedly dethroned Michael Jackson's album on the Billboard charts in early 1992, symbolizing a cultural shift. The polished pop of the 1980s gave way to the raw, unfiltered sound of grunge. Seattle, once a relatively obscure music city, became the epicenter of a global movement. Bands like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains rose alongside Nirvana, but it was Cobain's band that defined the era. Amid this success, Cobain struggled with fame. He openly despised the commodification of Nirvana's music, often criticizing MTV and the press. Meanwhile, his personal life attracted constant attention, especially his relationship with Courtney Love, frontwoman of the band Hole. The two married in February 1992 in Hawaii, shortly before the birth of their daughter, Frances Bean Cobain. Cobain's growing heroin addiction further complicated matters. He used the drug to self-medicate chronic stomach pain and mental health struggles, but it deepened tensions within the band and fueled relentless tabloid speculation. Yet, despite internal battles, Nirvana delivered one of the most memorable performances in rock history. Their 1992 Reading Festival set, where a visibly fragile Cobain mocked rumors of his demise by being wheeled on stage in a hospital gown, before launching into a ferocious performance. Turmoil, Artistry, and the Final Days, 1993 to 1994. By 1993, Nirvana's place in music history was secure, but Cobain's personal decline accelerated. The band released In Utero on September 21, 1993, produced by Steve Albini. The album was raw, abrasive, and deliberately anti-commercial, a direct response to critics who claimed Nirvana had sold out with Nevermind. Songs like Heart-Shaped Box and All Apologies revealed Cobain's vulnerability and creative genius. Despite critical acclaim, the band's US tour was chaotic, marked by Cobain's declining health and frequent absences. In November 1993, Nirvana recorded their MTV Unplugged in New York session. Stripped of distortion and volume, the performance showcased Cobain's haunting voice and fragile artistry. The cover of Lead Belly's Where Did You Sleep Last Night remains one of the most chilling live recordings in rock history. Just months later, tragedy struck. On March 4, 1994, Cobain was found unconscious in Rome after an overdose of Rohypnol and champagne, which Courtney Love described as a suicide attempt. He returned to Seattle but soon entered rehab in California. On April 1, 1994, Cobain fled the facility, returning home without informing family or friends. On April 8, 1994, an electrician discovered Kurt Cobain's body in his Seattle home. A shotgun lay nearby, and a note addressed to his fans and family cited his inability to continue living in pain. The coroner ruled the death a suicide, estimating it occurred on April 5th. He was just 27 years old, placing him among the tragic ranks of the so-called 27 Club. Alongside Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison, Cobain's death shocked the world. Memorials drew thousands of grieving fans to Seattle. His death certificate closed one chapter, but opened another filled with speculation. Some fans and conspiracy theorists questioned the circumstances, pointing to inconsistencies and Courtney Love's controversial role. To this day, debates about his final hours continue. Legacy, lessons, and the questions that remain. Kurt Cobain's story is more than the biography of a rock star. It is the story of a generation's disillusionment, the dangers of sudden fame, and the devastating effects of addiction and mental illness. Nirvana's music reshaped popular culture, breaking barriers between underground and mainstream, and giving voice to feelings millions could not articulate. Cobain once wrote, "I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not." His authenticity, however painful, became both his greatest gift and his heaviest burden. Today, nearly 3 decades after his death, Cobain remains a symbol of genius, fragility, and the cost of fame. His daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, has carried his legacy into a new era, while Nirvana's music continues to inspire new generations. But the mystery lingers. Was Kurt Cobain's fate inevitable? Or could it have been different? And what does his story teach us about the pressures we place on artists, the silence around mental health, and the culture of celebrity that so often consumes those it elevates? What do you think? Was Cobain a victim of his own demons, the music industry, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts below, and keep his story alive. Want more true stories? Don't forget to subscribe to our Real One Stories channel for more real-life stories that shaped history.